right, hello. Welcome to Money Matters. This is Kevin Hunter, your North Texas home hunter, your North Texas home hunter. We also have Brian Knatzer.
Cardinal Financial. Been in the business a little over 29 years. Closed several thousand loans for clients and our trusted referral partners. Primarily real estate agents, but we're Plano based. Underwriting is all in Plano, closing, funding, and we service our own loans. So we're all contained, and I would say that gives the clients that we're able to work with the best of all the worlds.
Nice, yeah, and that's our goal. And he says 29 years. I just say 30 years. I tend to round up, right? So I'm not trying to mislead anybody, but
that makes me a lot older.
Yeah, it's true. Well, it's the inevitable taxes, and So money matters, right? Let's talk about the things that matter in our real estate world, and then obviously as kind of the financial component. One of the things that we saw was a few weeks ago that the Fed's coming out and saying, hey, look, 2024 we're going to drop it 3 or 4 times. We're going to drop that rate. In 2025 we're going to drop it probably 4 times, right? And everybody was excited, and the market started heating up again in the real estate world. And then all of a sudden, I think last week they came out and they said, well, pretty good jobs report. Let's kind of tap those brakes a little bit. So it's been like this it's been kind of a weird market all 2023 anyways, but 2024 is getting off to kind of a helter-kelter start, right? It's just like stop, go. But I think when the Feds looked at kind of the positive jobs report and they started digging down deep into it, they were like, okay, well, was that seasonal stuff, right? Wasn't really as impactful as they thought, right? So now everyone's feeling good about it again. So what are you seeing on kind of the lending side?
Honestly, the lending side, and I want to talk about the jobs report just a second, because you're right. What they said when they dug down in it, and the reason they're now digging down in it is the 4 previous jobs reports that came in, and they came in good, have now been revised lower in each of the previous 4 months. So when this one came out, and it was expected to have 170,000 jobs added, and it came in at 216,000. So it was a shock, like you said.
Yeah, wow.
There was but then they dug down into it and they saw that, the seasonal, like what you're talking about. There were several different things, and part-time jobs were a lot of the jobs added as well. So what you've got that inflation affected economy, and folks are carrying more debt right now than they have since before the pandemic.
Historic levels.
And so to not lose, they're taking on second jobs, whether it's an Uber or whether it's working at Starbucks. I mean, I actually have someone that I know that has a full-time job and has recently started working at Starbucks because she had to, right?
Yeah.
So that's a real part of those jobs numbers as well. But it doesn't necessarily mean that your big corporations are adding thousands and thousands of jobs. It's just a combination of all of them.
Yeah.
So 2023, we actually originated $1.9 trillion in loans throughout the industry nationwide. That was down significantly from 2022. Now, oddly enough, the first half of 2022 carried the majority of the closings and fundings for the mortgage industry. The latter half is when rates really started to go. From June through December, rates really started popping upwards, and they kind of peaked in 2022 in November before they dropped back down in 2023 a little bit again. But then they started going all the way up, and we got up into the 8s into the beginning of late Q3, early Q4 of 2023. And that really stymied the market. It's the slowest it had been in 28 years. Loan applications were the slowest they've been in 28 years. But that sentiment, you're talking about the Fed, and they're seeing the numbers that they're starting to want to see. It's causing them to calm. And the investors on Wall Street that buy the mortgage-backed securities and the long-term treasuries, creating more of a demand for them, which means yields are falling because the price goes up, the yield falls inversely, and that improves our interest rates. So we've seen rates fall over 1% since the end of October, sometimes in some cases more like 1.25%. Already what that has done is that increases the buying power of someone that was at 8.25 and now is at just under 7, or even in the mid-6s for that matter, because I'm locking a 6.5% interest rate today.
Wow.
But it's for every 1% in rate that improves, it improves the buying power for that client by 13%. And I've got a first-time homebuyer client of mine, very well qualified, got his own money, great credit, excellent job, very diligent, and he was so limited by what he could afford and get approved for at 8.25% interest that he basically like threw in the towel.
Wow.
Well, we were able to get him reinterested by talking to him about rates late last week, and that's kind of what we're seeing now.
Yeah.
The beginning of 2024 has been tremendous. We've seen more applications come in in the 4 days of last week, and so far yesterday and today, than we saw in October, November, and December, literally within that combined period of time. So I think the clients got through the holidays. Potential home buyers got through the holidays. They're getting a little bit of a warm blanket and comfort. The Fed's not freaking out over inflation. They're hearing that rates are going to drop. They're seeing that rates are drop, and it's increasing that appetite. And I think that we're going to see. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but we were expecting 2024 to rise from $1.9 trillion in fundings in 2023. The industry, Mortgage Bankers Association, is expecting it to get to $2.4 trillion in 2024.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big jump.
So it's a significant jump.
Yeah. And that's kind of what you and I always talk about, right? It's like when you begin the home buying process, one of the first things you have to do is talk to a lender, right? Understand what is that payment going to look like, right? Where's my comfort zone, right? Where's my sweet spot? And then you kind of begin that journey out to go evaluate properties, right? Going out to your realtor, hey, can you set some auto searches up for me? Let's get some inventory bubbling up. Let's go and start looking at some places, right?
And when you're sitting in those inventories, stress to them, because we do, when they see a property that comes through your search that they're interested in, shoot us that address.
Yeah.
We go out, we research the property taxes on that exact home.
Nice.
We check the market rates for that day, so we can give them a total picture of what their total estimated house payment is going to look like right then and there before they even go look at the house, and what their total cash to close would look like. So if they do want to go look at that house and the numbers they know fit them, that's an empowering moment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no doubt. And then as a seller to a buyer, then as a seller, right, to a buyer, I mean, if you have somebody coming and looking at your house, looking at your property, and they're already pre-qualified, or they've got that proof of funds, right? That's a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I like to have, my clients, right? I always want to set people up for success. We don't need to be looking at $1.5 million homes if you can't qualify for more than 900, right? So we want to be realistic. We want to make this a great experience, right? So just understanding up front, okay, this is where we should be looking. Let's set our expectations right, and then it creates a more successful, more efficient, if you will, buying process versus getting out there and just winging it, and then you have to retract and reset calibration for your expectations and all that. It's a complete nightmare. So
trying to look at homes without having been pre-approved or pre-qualified, it's like jumping out of an airplane without a parachute.
Yeah.
I mean, you may know how to fly, but that thing, you got to land at some point in time, right? So if you got to land, you need to know what that looks like up front. So we see financing deals, let's put that nationwide, contracts that have already been accepted, already executed, buyers and sellers, they fall out and they cancel for financing reasons 18% of the time nationally. Okay, well, we go one step further than just pre-qualifying, because I have done this for nearly 30 years. There's not a set of tax returns I have not seen before. Doesn't matter if you've got 17. I've done a client with 17 companies, foreign income. I mean, we've truly seen it all.
Yeah.
But that's not as strong as us gathering all that documentation, because then I know whether it's good news or bad news right then and there. But then we put it in underwriting, and within 24 to 36 hours, we have an underwriter that is going to be the one that blesses that thing from the very beginning. At the very end, they've blessed it up front, and that allows you to take your clients to a seller and a listing agent, and on the third-party financing addendum, you get to check that box that there's no financing contingency.
Yeah.
And that is tremendously stronger than someone that's just, even with my experience, that has looked at tax returns or paycheck stubs or bank statements, because there's so many variables today that in the mortgage business looks at all of those variables.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important. So we go get them credit approved, and then it makes that offer stronger than anything other than a cash offer.
Yeah, and I think you're talking that like literally within the first week of January, you have almost 20 applications, right?
Yeah.
And that, I think what that speaks to is hearing some positive news about the market, about the lending, about the rates coming down, and then probably some really mature kind of heady investors, right? People who understand I don't want to wait too long, right? Because then it's going to be negative. Though I may gain a little bit on a lower rate. Now all of a sudden we're going to start getting into those, somebody's coming in with a cash offer, right? Or somebody's, multiple bids, multiple offers, and all of a sudden you're going above asking price, right? And so get in now, beat the rush, and start building that equity.
So you hit the nail on the head, and it's already happening. Right now, as of right now, we've got a deal under contract in Allen that was a multiple offer situation. The buyers had to over offer. I closed the deal last Thursday in North Richland Hills. It was a house just under $400,000, multiple offer situation, and then my buyers had to offer over $400,000 if they got it. Okay, I'm dealing with a deal right now in Argyle where a client came in. They knew there was already an offer on the table for this specific home, but the sellers weren't going to look at offers until the end of business on Monday, last night.
Yeah.
They over-offered by $15,000 and they got the deal. I found out this morning. There's a condo in Dallas right this very moment that had 15 people look at it on Saturday, I think 17 people look at it on Sunday, and then there were 6 offers submitted on Monday. So, I mean, I'm dealing with those right now.
Yeah.
So it's here.
It's before it really even gets publicized and it's heating up.
If the rates get into the low 6s, it's going to be nuts. If the rates get into the high 5s, it's going to be nuts. And I'm excited. I'm ready for it to be back there again. But it makes it harder on you and your clients when they're trying to buy a house. So that message you and I both have been preaching on Money Matters this past year is, marry the house, date the rate. Yeah. I also feel that those clients are now that's starting to resonate because they feel the rates are coming back. And now it's that FOMO. They're like, if I don't do it now, it may be a lot harder later on down the road.
Yeah, definitely going to miss out. And I think that's one of the things that I learned first, right, was literally one of my first clients was they had some lending issues, right? That's on their credit report. They had a couple of gotchas, and you were able to go in and say, hey, look, if you can get these cleaned up, they'll drop off by this certain amount of time, right? Which is really going to put them in the sweet spot at the beginning of the rates dropping and stuff like that. So again, really, really important to work with your lender and to be able to say, okay, if we can clean this up, then 2 months from now, 3 months from now, we'll be ready to jump right in.
Yep, and that's empowerment. It's knowledge, it's comfort, but it's also empowerment because that takes the question mark out of it. And I've been in this business. I've now bought 10 homes for myself.
Wow. You're your own best customer.
Yeah, I'm not nervous these days on whether or not I can or can't qualify to buy a loan. But I can tell you, when I bought a house in 2013 and 2017, those in 2019, those transactions, and I've been in the business a long time, and I'm a loan officer, I was still nervous. Yeah. So take that nervousness out of it. Go get it done, get the paperwork approved, and have that peace of mind while you're looking at homes and knowing what the numbers are going to look like.
Yeah, I actually saw your social media about the townhouse or the condo down in Dallas, and I was just like, man, I wish someone would have told me back then, don't rent, jump in, and then start building that equity. And then in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whenever you're ready to graduate, whenever you're ready to get married and start a family, and you want to get that house, now all of a sudden you've got some equity built up, right? And I just kept playing in my head like, wow, I wish somebody, because that's how people start building wealth, right? Not by renting, right? But by investing. And people invest in stock. It's good stuff. You can figure that out. Real estate, almost no brainer, bigger than the S&P 500, right? So to me, I wish that somebody would have, come to me 20, 25 years ago and said, hey, look, instead of renting, have you ever thought about this? And I'm like, wow, the payment wouldn't have really been that much more. And I really would have started investing, right? Yeah. So when I would have sold that 5-10 years later, right, when I got married and started to have a kid and living in Plano, man, we would have had some serious equity built up versus absolutely nothing.
I've got an exciting program to tell you about. That literally we just saw it yesterday.
Nice.
So the Texas Department of Housing has come out and Community Affairs, Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. They've come out and rolled out a true first-time home buyer program to help folks not rent but buy.
Nice.
So it's not a down payment assistance program, but it's a 30-year fixed rate at 3.8%.
Wow.
And all you got to have is a 620 credit score to get in the door. You have to have your own down payment. You can have seller help with the closing costs, but you can get in for as little as 3.5%. Or if you're a veteran, you can get in with 0% and still get access to that rate. And that's better than the Texas Veterans Landlord rates right now. So
wow.
You've got to be a bona fide first-time home buyer. You got to have a minimum of a 620 credit score. But that rate is available on a 30-year fixed right now. We found out yesterday.
So is that something I can take advantage of if I know somebody?
Sure.
I'd love to get into that.
Right. No, me too. I would.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great program.
Yes, sir.
Sweet.
You know, any first-time home buyers, that's a reason to not rent. You know, get in the game. Being in the game for longer is better than trying to time that game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else before we close this puppy out?
I'm good with that one today.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to Money Matters. We look forward to talking to you soon.